How are we doing, folks? Our B25 BSA Starfire carburetor day to day. So got it out of the box a bit. Doesn't look in such good condition. Looks like it's been to Mars and back. But I have got a few other bits of Amal Concentric carbs here and there, different ones. I think I've got some bits off a 930. So a few of the bits will be the same. But let's open it up and let's see how good or bad it is inside. Okay, so got a box to put some bits in. So we'll just take the cap off first and pull the slide out. So just a couple of Phillips headed screws in there. In tight. Come on, baby. There we go. So that's the slide out. So pull the spring back, take the needle jet out, what are we on? Middle notch, and then I should be able to push the end of the cable into the second slot. And there's the cable and the cap released. So we can get rid of that for the moment. So cap, bit of wear on that, which I would have thought. Anyway, let's pull it apart and have a look. So next is we'll have the twin takeoff and strainer. It's obviously a Mark 1 because there's no drain in the bottom. So that's Whitworth, I think, isn't it? Whitworth spanner. Maybe. Yep. Definitely crudded over. Oh yeah, complete with sandpit. Jeez, little screwdriver for that. Yeah, very dirty, dusty, whatever it is. It's obviously been leaking out the front there as well by the look of it. So float bowl. Oh, it's unusual. They're normally Phillips. These are straight shot. and not tight. So maybe that's why the bulb's leaking, I don't know. Don't know if they're the right screws either. They look a bit short. I thought all the 4 screws are the same. So I don't think they're the original float chamber ones are the original. But I've got a couple of carbs, so let's just keep going with this. Bit tighter that one. Oh wait. Yeah, they're definitely not the right screws. Oh yeah. Plenty of sand or whatever that is. Yeah, it's quite badly cruddied up. So, definitely a Mark 1. Got the hollow float. And got the horrible nylon main valve, so I can't really put that back anyway, because should really have the ones with a Viton tip, because they do give trouble. Let's keep going anyway. Is that size? Yes. Oh, loose. That was handy. Finding the appropriate spanner for that. Found it. The appropriate spanner, one size fits all. I should be able to hold that like that. Oh, tight. Plenty of build-up of whatever that is in there. So that's that way up, isn't it? It's obviously wants a really good clean, but it doesn't feel too bad. There's no step in it or anything. So that clean-up might go back. And I can see through there, but I obviously need to clean it up. So I'll check all the jet sizes, the main jet, this, obviously. And the jet holder, yeah. So slow running, appropriate screwdriver for that. At least it's got an O-ring on it. Mixture, slow running mixture screw. Doesn't look too bad. So this is, you don't normally see this jet. I mean, this is an early one. This someone's been in there before. You can see where they've scratched up all the white crud off it. Let's try a wider screwdriver in case I snap the brass ends off. Yeah, it's tight. Ah, tight. I'm just going to give that a very light tap with a copper face, just to see if we can shake it into action. I'm going to stab myself. Yes, what away. It's coming out. Okay. So unfortunately I don't. Yeah, even the tickler's seized. So unfortunately I don't possess a ultrasonic cleaner. My budget hasn't run to that yet, maybe. A nice rock hard fractured O-ring, obviously been on there since day one. So I'm going to clean all these parts up and just see how much wear there is in the slide in relationship to the body. Clean all the jets up. I'll have to find the float valve, because I know they give trouble. It would have been nice to have a stay-up float, but I know I definitely haven't got one of those. But anyway, it's clean up time. Maybe salvageable. If not, could be an Amal Premier like I had to do on the B50 because it was so badly worn. So clean up, then we'll lay everything out. We'll check all the jet sizes, have a look in the book, see what we've got, see what's worn, see what'll go back, see what won't go back, and see if we can recover and take it from there. So I'll see you shortly. How are we doing, folks? After cleaning everything up, carburettor wise, things weren't looking too good. I did have another two carburettors, two Amal Concentrics. One was the old one off the B50, which was quite poorly, and I did have another one. It must have been off a twin cylinder, because it's a left-handed carburettor. Not that it makes any difference putting it on a single, but the body on that one and the slide is quite good, so I'm going to end up using that one with the bits of the other two carburettors. So I've cleaned everything, lapped all the faces, got all the bits that I need to build it, so let's put it together. So this was the body I'm going to use. It is a left-hander, which doesn't make any difference on a single cylinder, because obviously you can get to the tickler and the slow running and the mixture screw from either side. And I've lapped all the faces with just on the drilling machine table, because it's dead flat, with some wet and dry. So they've come out quite nice. And the same, I'm using the float bowl off the other spare, because this one's got the drain in the bottom, which is nice to have. And obviously I've done that face as well, all nice and flat. Because I was using another float bowl, I've had to reset the float height, so not a very simple job with the hollow floating carbs, but I didn't have one of the stay up floats, which would have been quite nice. So this float had to go back. However, I did have a new Viton seated needle valve, so that now is set to about just under 2mm. I've set it to off the rim. Hard to tell on there, but we've got it. So it's quite a bit of messing around trying to get that float height, if anybody's ever done it. So what I ended up doing is, if I just use this old one as an example, I had to make a couple of punches. This hole here is 3.5, so this is just a bit of silver steel that I've turned down, and I'll just take the seat right out so we can have a look. So the needle seat, all it is just a brass bush, obviously with a taper in the bottom for the valve to sit against, and it's just a tight fit in the body. So you have to drift it down or drift it up, dependent on where your height is, and obviously because there's probably a 10-to-1 difference between the fulcrum point here and the distance where the valve is to the edge of the float, let's say 10-to-1. So if you move this 1/10 of a millimetre at this end, then it's going to move a millimetre at the other end. So it takes a bit of messing around, but it can be done. So you need a 3.5, or you have to make or get a 3.5mm drift, and it will just fit down that hole there to drift this in and out. And if you want to knock it back the other way, I've just turned up a bit of brass. It just sits in there quite nicely, and you can tap it down. So a bit of messing around, but it can be done. But if you've got a pop-up float, the pop-up floats, they're they've got a stainless steel tab here which is like moulded into the float, and you just get a pair of long nose pliers across the full length and you can twist it up or down to get your 1.8 or 2mm or whatever you're going to use for your float height. So that is set and I'm happy with that. So that can go in. And that's that, ready to go. I did have a gasket. I'm going to reuse that. It's not too bad. So that's going to go back on. So we can just set that aside for a second. So we build up the body, but before, when you're cleaning these out, you've got to be really meticulous and scrupulous with your cleaning. These holes are drilled. This one here just drills straight in to the main jet, so no problem, they can actually see that one. So if I get a screwdriver, you can actually see it in there, if I get this right. So no worries there. But this one goes through this passage here and it goes into this chamber here where this Welsh plug or this core plug is, and it comes across into the mixture screw adjuster here, but it also then comes back to where our pilot jet is here, and trying to clean that out is very difficult. So you need to persevere. If you've got what I use is a piece of wire brush. So if you've got a stainless steel wire brush, pull out one clump of the bristles, and then you can separate it. And I don't know what they are in thou, but it's perfect for going down, especially these two here. Difficult to see. Can we catch those? Probably not. But there's one there behind the slide and there's one in front of the slide. So make sure they're clear. Obviously these have been airlined and they are spotless. And that just fits in there quite nicely, both holes. And then just to check it, stick your finger over the mixture screw hole and the pilot hole and give it a blast with some brake cleaner, and you should see it squirting out of these two here, and then you know you've got it. So I'm happy that that's clear. So let's start to build this up. So we need the jet holder and the two jets. So we've got the main jet, and I did have a look in a couple of the manuals. So for a 1969, which this one is, it's a 180cc jet. So the 180cc's got nothing to do with measuring the hole size. It's actually in 1 minute 180cc's of fuel can pass through that orifice. So Mincuni do it that way, Amal do it that way, Del Auto and Keen, they do it by the measurement. So I was looking at the main jet on a 1970 and that's a 200, but when you look at the difference in the sizes, there's hardly anything. These are the diameters in millimeters, so the difference is 0.063 millimeters in diameter between a 180 and a 200. just that these figures make it look a lot bigger, but this is the amount of fuel that can flow through it. So the 180 is going back in, and the only other one I've got is a 260, which is too big, so that's not going in there. So should have the right size spanners this time. So that one is a Whitworth spanner on the jet holder, and this one 5/16 AF, which is also 8mm. So don't go mad, obviously. So that's the main jet fitted, and then we've got the needle jet, and this is the right one as well. It's a is it 0.06? I did write them all down. Yeah, the needle jet is a 0.106, and that was for the pre-oiling frame and the oiling frame versions, so that didn't change. And it's the same spanner size. So we're in. Now this can go into the body. No gaskets or nothing, it just butts up and just nip. Done. And now we can put the pilot jet in. Just coming back to this pilot jet, obviously this is a Mark 1 carburettor. The later ones don't have a pilot jet there. The pilot jet is actually in here. So you need to make sure you've got your piece of wire brush wire, and you've got to make sure that that's absolutely clear. And I said that the B50 carb that I've rubbed a few parts off was in a bad way. It just so happens that it's had water in it, and quite a lot of electrolysis has taken place, and it's actually got a, I don't know if you can catch that, it's got a hole right through it with the electrolysis, because there's obviously a lot of zinc in this. I think the original name for this, I think, was Mazak, and now it's Zamac, but it's just a zinc alloy that you know what your Corgi, Dinky and Matchbox cars used to be made from, but it casts very well, it flows very well, and you can do some very accurate castings with it. That's why they use it, and that's why it's heavy, because there's also lead in there as well. So there's a bit of lead, there's zinc, there's a bit of copper, there's all kinds of junk in there. So Zamac. But coming back to this thing, so say it had water in it, and this little Welsh plug or core plug had actually, the water must have froze or burst out, and this is just absolutely full, and you know, you'd have no chance of cleaning all that out through these small holes. And just look at that, it's just absolutely coat solid. And I wouldn't advise taking this Welsh plug out, just in case you don't get it sealed properly when it goes back in. So yeah, I've never seen inside there before until I just give this a bit of a clean up and it just fell out. So yeah, that scrap. So let's pilot jet back in. So again, been airlined, cleaned, whatever, and obviously not too tight, just enough, with a really nice fitting screwdriver so you're not doing any damage. So that now is built up, so we can go for the float bowl. So I'm just going to sit that on there, and now I can invert it to get the screws in. And we were right about the when I took the screws out of here, they were incorrect. So I've got these, and they're actually, I like these ones. These are got a hexagon head on them. So these are about 5-6 mil longer. So I'm just gently pulling them down. Job done. So the float bowl's on. Like I say, I've done all the faces nice and flat, so I can now put the drain in there. So I've got the appropriate washer for it. I have got a brass one of these as well, but it's a bit chewed up. This is a later one, it's a plastic one. And again, don't have to go mad with this. I mean, they made probably a 5p or something would tighten that up. But they're just a gentle, because it is plastic. And now we're ready for the feed. So, again, I've cleaned the faces up on these, because if you do over tighten them, they do actually dint in there. So this now has been refurbed, if you like. Filter's been cleaned, so the filter bob's in there, and the filter's also the gasket for the base. So the banjo bolt, it was a bit rusty, but I've wire brushed it all up, and I've run a drill down inside by hand and through there just to make sure there's no bits that are going to come off, rust or whatever. So I've got the appropriate seal for that. It looks like a nylon seal, that one. And then this, the wings on this one face backwards towards the air filter. And in we go. So same with spanner on that as well. So just get him square. And don't go mad. Obviously you don't want it to come undone, but don't forget you're just pulling down on this soft material which easily deforms. Okay, we've got a few bits to go still. So I can't remember where I got these from. Or what these came off. They are actually, this is the pilot screw, and this is the one which for the idle, which lifts and lowers the slide. But these are extended and they've got hexagons on them, so I'm not sure what they were off, but obviously for an Amal carb, because they're exactly the same as the ones that, if you look at the profiles, they are exactly the same. But yeah, I like them. So I've got new O-rings for these. So you just have to tease these on. New O-ring for that. So obviously lifting up or down the slide for the slow running. In we go. And mixture. So all the way, start point all the way in till she bottoms, then 1.5 out, half, 1.5, and that's our start point. So now we're looking at the slide and the cap and the spring. So I've got the throttle cable here, and I've got the cap. there's various different caps as well, so I've had to swap these around. I think this new one I've got was off my new Amal Premier that I bought for the B50, threaded on both, but this one is only threaded for the choke, which I'm not going to use. Oh, it is threaded, but the different sizes, a bigger thread on this for some reason, but that does fit in there. So there's just a blank to go in there. This is where the choke would be, or the choke cable would be. Just fills the hole. And I probably haven't got a spanner for this at the moment. Yeah, and that's the same. Oh no, it's not. So let's get a spanner for that. Okay, it's neither metric or IF, so it's a weird size, might be BA. I'm just going to nip that. She's done. Now I can bring the throttle cable in. And I'm going to send it all the way to the bottom, the adjuster, because we've got to get the slide on there. All the way in. So just getting stuff ready. So I did have a brand new needle valve, needle jet, middle groove just as a start point, and they are marked the same. This one's got 2 notches on it, and these are 2.5 mil. So that's going to go in, and the slide isn't too bad on this one. The others were very worn, in fact so worn. If you look at this little cutaway here, on this one it was so badly worn, it's worn through the depth of the cutaway. And I can't use the one off the B50 because that one is a 930, so that'll be 30mm across there. And there's a slightly different profile, because obviously when this opens up fully, that radius is supposed to match this radius. This one's 28, obviously a 928, and that's a 930, so it's going to be this one. So spring first. This is where you need 3 hands. So drop the spring on, and then I normally use a pair of long nose pliers. Get the spring just started a bit, put the long nose pliers on, and then push and pull. So you've got a bit of freeboard or a bit of free space. That now will go through where the needle valve goes, come out the top, go across one and sit there. And while we've got it now holding the spring as is, we have to drop in the needle valve because the spring holds that down, and that should just drop in there the right way around, he said. And we're in and seated, and now we can tease this off and let it sit down so it's trapped the needle valve and the cables nice and secured. We're in. So now we can fit the slide. Oh, just if anybody's ever seen the choke mechanism, all these slides have this cutaway here, and this is the choke slide. And what comes with the choke slide is this guide for the cable, keeps the cable off the spring. That in there. Same idea, cable goes through and it hooks over the end, through that hole, down, and latches in there, obviously over this, through there, and the choke is it opposite to the throttle slide. When you twist the throttle against the spring, you Daisy, you're obviously lifting, but the choke is always in the on position and you pull it off. So that's why they have one of those lawnmower type friction device levers. But you have to remember with the choke, it doesn't assist in starting the bike because the slide is always down and you're reliant on the pilot airways and fuelways, and if you give it too much throttle it won't start because it's giving too much air. So the choke only works when the engine's cold, when you're using the bike, so it can pull away with the cold engine and then keep progressively taking it off. I mean, I don't know whether Starfires were ever fitted with a choke. Definitely B50s weren't, or mine wasn't. Definitely the MXs aren't. So I don't bother with a choke. It's just another cable and another load of settings you've got to play around with. So as far as we're concerned now, that is ready to drop in. So there's a notch all the way down the slide and a peg. So you line the peg up with the notch, make sure the needle goes in the middle in the appropriate position, and we're down, he said, with not enough pairs of hands. There we go. So this can go on two ways, but obviously you want it the way that the spring is lined up properly. Will go on the other way. So I'm just going to hold this down. Couple of screws in there. We're in, and just give them a squeeze. And we're in, and we're there. So I'm just going to take the slack out the cable now. So I'm going till it just starts, make sure this is backed out first, so I'm not holding it with a slide stop, and I can just move in. So I can lock that up at that position, and I can wind this in until I see the slide start to raise. We're on it now, so I'm just going to let it just touch. Obviously that would be set when we're on the bike, and it should, if I put that there, if you can you see the all nice and free, snaps back. So we're ready to go on. Oh, the last bit, wasn't it? I did have an O-ring for that. New O-ring. And that's the carb ready to drop on. So I had a couple of bell mouths, which I don't know what I'm going to do yet, whether it is just going to be a bell mouth, because I actually have got the air filter holder, so I might be sticking that on, but I'll leave those two off until I've got the bike running. Anyway, there's the phone and we're done. We'll catch you later.